guys, the purpose of this video is for educational purposes only, and it should not be it's construed to communicate that we're giving out investment advice. You should contact a professional due to the level of risk that's involved. Okay, so I'm mad that I missed the simple breakout indicated that this was due for a major run up. As you can see, at this point it was at 158, and it's already up like 7 points. Let's say I was looking to get into this today, right? The thing that I want to use here, and I'm not interested in purchasing it today because it's already ran based on how I trade. But let's say I was looking to get into it today. I'm going to I'm going to show you how I go about establishing my risk reward, how much I want in a trade, that's the reward, and how much I'm willing to risk in the event that I'm wrong. All right. There's no one method. The point is to have a consistent approach. So maybe this is something you want to consider, or maybe this doesn't work for you. But at least I'm giving you something to consider. The first thing that I like to do is I like to see what the market makers are anticipating. And because I got this breakout signal here, I would be looking typically for a play that's 60 days out, because this is letting me know that this is telling me this can make a major run. Case in point, I got one in June. I got one in December, and you can see from the time. And if I look almost from here, it was at 149. 30 days later, I'm already up 15 points. I would have been playing this for a 60-day move. So if I look at this, and I know we're early, but it's already started running. So if I'm looking 60 days out, that takes me to the March 19th option contracts. What I use as a baseline is I look to see what are the experts, the market makers looking for. And in this case, they're looking for 15 points, right? And my approach is to say, I like to use that as a guide to see if that's something that we can realistically shoot for. Except I don't need them to be 100% accurate. I just need them to be 70% right. So the way I go about establishing my reward is I will look for 70% of this, which is basically like $10.75. I'm looking for a $10.75 movement by this date, right? Um, and then so now that's the reward I would like to get. Now the next thing that I do is I go to the chart and see, is that based on my Fibonacci's a target that's realistic. So now I'm going to use this run, and I'm going to compare this to a previous run. My first choice is to use Fibonacci's, and ideally I like to compare it to a recent pullback to see how we're doing, which is here. But I can't use this one because we're already significantly extended from that pullback. I would have loved to be able to use a pullback and target something like the 127 extension or less. So what I'm going to have to do is use a recent run up, which means I need a Fibonacci extension, which I've already selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to act like this run up here, from here to here, how does this run up compare, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, come to where I think the run up ended, and then I come here, right? So if I do that, 100% of this current run would end here. That would be when the current run, if it makes it to here, that would be the equivalent of getting here, right? So what is this telling me? This is telling me this is another 4 points. I'm looking for 10 points, right? 11 points. So let's see if the 127, let's see how that compares to the 127. And that would get me 6 points. So if I was to look at if I was to look to play this, I would be looking at this somewhere between, okay. So I'm gonna be playing this almost to the 168, which that's a little long for me. I don't that's a little beyond my comfort zone. So even though ideally I would have liked 11 points, I would be targeting something between the 127 and the 161. If I get something halfway there, I would be fine. So that would be my reward, right? And what we're saying is, just to understand a little more, we're saying that this current run, so they're about 50% of the way into this run, and my target using the market makers 70% as a guide, 70% of that number would take me just a little bit past the 161. That's a little high. So I would be targeting like a eight, somewhere. This would be the end of my comfort zone. So I'm going to be target. Let's say I'm going to target this. This is what, 9 points. How much am I willing to sacrifice to get the 9 points? Right. What would be something I would be comfortable with? Well, so if I'm gonna go nine, me personally, I would be comfortable if it's sacrifice. I would be comfortable with a 2 to 1. If I get better, that's even more. So if it dropped by 4 points to chase 9 points, that would be fine for me. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna right click on here. I'm gonna create an alert, and I'm gonna say, okay, if it gets -4 points, so if it gets at or below, and I'm just going to make this 161.98, and I'm just going to make a note: reevaluate J and J option position. Right? And by creating this alert, mine is my laptop will make a sound on that. If it hits this number, I will get an email and I'll get a text message that will basically let me know, hey, it's time to recreate. It's time to take a look at it. And you'll see it marks it here. So for me, my reward, I'm chasing 9, right? What I would normally do is put in a trade to close it out at this point, and I would take it off if I feel there's more as we get close to it. Meanwhile, I also have a note in here that tells me this is where I'm wrong, and this is what I do every trade I make. Hundreds of ways to do it. I'm just presenting a way to establish risk reward. I would be making this trade. I'm targeting something close between a 127 and a 168. I'm going out 60 days, right? And how would I calculate my reward? I just use the delta as a baseline. So if I'm looking for 10 points, it's at 160. I may go with the 170. Nice nice amount of contracts available. Um, and that they're being traded 3,000, or I may go here because I really want everything. I'm greedy, right? So and I may actually do this, which is $700, right? But the point is coming up with a consistent, repeatable approach to establish what do you want out of a trade, and when are you wrong. I'm using the price of the stock, where I said, taking the market makers as a guide, I just need them to be 70% right. Is that something realistic on my chart? For me, it is. It's between the 127 and the 161. I'm going out 60 days, so that's not so bad. I'm chasing 9 points, and I'm willing to sacrifice 4 to get there. If you don't have time to go back and look at your trade, then you can put it in order, an OCO order, which says which will say whatever occurs first. You can calculate what the trade would look like if you actually get to here. You can put it in order to open, and then say, okay, after in addition to the order to open, you could say make sure at the same time if it gets here, close, or if it gets down to here, close, whichever happens first. You can do it that way. On the other hand, I don't want to do that. I like to be able to go back and reevaluate my trade if it falls, to see if the principles that got me in the trade in the first place do they still exist? Because at that point, I would take a position of doubling down. I may sell a put so that theta isn't working against me. But that's it. Establishing risk reward, many ways to do it. Here's one to consider. Let me know if you have any questions.